Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? Let's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome, fans, to another mind-blowing episode of The Spread. This is your guest host, Big Easy, in the studio, filling in for Jim today. We're going to continue our NL West baseball talk. We're here with our senior baseball analysts, JK47 and J Dash. We've already commented about the Colorado Rockies and the San Diego Padres and about how they're almost mirror image of teams. Garbage, basically. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the Arizona Diamondbacks, a team that when it comes to mind, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear Arizona Diamondbacks is Randy Johnson killing a bird.
Yes, I remember that.
And Luis Gonzalez's hit in Game 7 to beat the Yankees, right?
Believe it.
That's the two things that come into my mind when I hear Arizona Diamondbacks. And they have a pool in the outfield, right?
I was going to say, I'm thinking of people hitting home runs into that pool.
Into the pool, and yeah, there's probably some fine women at that pool out there in the outfield. So they have a nice ballpark, and they've won a World Series. So quality baseball team out there. Arizona, you overlook your baseball team out there. People from Arizona, I know you do.
Well, I tell you what, a lot of people overlooked them last year. They took it right down to the end, really, and a lot of it had to do with Paul Goldschmidt, obviously. This guy is an MVP-type player season in and season out these days.
Beast.
But they beefed up their team, man. Look, they signed Zach Greinke to a 6-year deal. So they signed him long-term. Now, look, he's probably not going to give you the numbers he gave you last year. It was almost a career year for him. He might have had a couple other years there where he pitched similar to that. But you got to remember, the Dodgers pitch in a pitcher's park, and Arizona is a hitter's park. So I see Zach Greinke's numbers going down a little bit, but he's still a guy that deserves to be at the top of a rotation, definitely. And it's a big signing here. And they also traded for Shelby Miller, a guy that played for the St. Louis Cardinals. I wasn't real high on him. He had the big heater or whatever, but that's all he really had was the fastball. And then last season, he pitched very well to at least to open the season. I mean, he was in the Cy Young talk early in the season. He really stepped it up. And then, I mean, he tailed off a little bit later in the season or whatever, but they gave up a big price to bring in Shelby Miller. They gave up their top draft pick last season and one of the top prospects in baseball, shortstop Dansby Swanson. They gave up outfielder Ender Inciarte, who's a decent baseball player, a deserved starter, although not spectacular or anything. And another young pitcher, a guy that might start for the Braves to begin the season in Aaron Blair. And this was always a guy I liked. He doesn't have number one upside or anything. He's probably more of a number 3, but he's going to be a solid number 3, I think. So they gave up a ton. So they believe in Shelby Miller and probably think he can achieve ace status eventually as well. And if that's true, then you have 2 aces on this staff.
I don't look for Shelby Miller to be so much an ace as to be just like a really good starter.
If you had a team
Well, he's
and
definitely
he was
my
your
number
number 1,
he's
would that be okay?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be okay, but I mean, it wouldn't be like stellar.
What other team would he be a number 1 on right now? Name 3.
Baltimore Orioles,
It's one.
the Milwaukee Brewers,
And the Reds.
Colorado Rockies.
the Colorado
Well,
Rockies,
the
the
worst
Reds.
teams. Shelby Miller is a 1 on
the Philadelphia
the
Phillies.
bottom teams here, you're telling me?
No,
I'd
I'm
take
not
Aaron Nola over. And personally, I'd take Aaron Nola over Shelby Miller. He mentioned the Philadelphia Phillies. But, yeah, Shelby Miller would be a number 1 on several teams.
Okay.
But I'd rather take him as a number 2. I'm with 47, having Greinke and then Shelby Miller.
I'm not trying to knock his pitching ability. He's a good pitcher.
I don't know. I'm not high on Shelby Miller, to tell you the truth, but I'd take him as a number 2 because of what he showed last season. But even when he was dominating last season, I told people, I was like, just watch, he's going to fall off because I just don't believe Shelby Miller is that ace-type pitcher that he was shown the first half of last year.
Well, the NL West is more of an offensive division anyway.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's going to be tough to pitch in Arizona for these guys that came over from pitchers' ballparks. But a couple other signings. They brought in relief pitcher Wesley Wright, relief pitcher Tyler Clippard. They signed second baseman Ricky Weeks to a minor league deal, and they traded for shortstop Gene Segura. Another surprising move here. Gene Segura, a guy for the Milwaukee Brewers in his debut season, Well, it might not have been his debut. I think he actually debuted for the Angels and then was traded for Zach Greinke at one point to the Brewers. And his first year with the Brewers, he came out and he was one of the top shortstops in all of baseball for the first half, 3/4 of the season. And then he completely fell apart and really hasn't rebounded over the past 2 seasons. And it looks like he's more of just the average player at this point, and he really doesn't even play great defense as well. They gave up Aaron Hill, a young pitcher in Chase Anderson, and a young prospect shortstop in Ison Diaz as well. So they gave up a lot for Gene Segura. So they kind of believe in this guy as well, and I'm not so sure about this guy. I had high expectations for him at one time too, and he just can't hit like he showed that first season with Milwaukee there. So I really don't believe Gene Segura is more than an average shortstop at this point. But they lost relief pitcher David Hernandez to free agency. He went over to the Phillies, and it looks like he's going to be their closer this season. And they lost catcher Jared Saltalamacchia to free agency as well. So,
Saltalamacchia, true veteran.
believe it. But, I mean, they do have Wellington Castillo, catcher now as well, and they still have Tuffy Gosewich, who we don't like. We mentioned him last season. We said this guy was a bum. But Wellington Castillo isn't a terrible catcher.
Tough Bagwell.
But then tough bag. You take a look at this team. In the outfield, center field, A.J. Pollock had a huge season last year. Didn't he, 47?
He definitely came into his own last year. The 315 average, the 20 jacks are nice. But, I mean, what's best of all, the 39 stolen bases.
Yeah, so he does everything well. He plays good defense. This guy really took it to another level last season. And I don't even know if you can expect that again this season. I really don't think he's that good. But, I mean, you got to be happy with him in center field. He does everything very well. And David Peralta played well last season as well. Looks like he's going to start at one of the corner positions, probably right field, I would have to believe at this point. But what about Yasmani Tomas? This guy, he was okay last year, but he really didn't give the numbers that people wanted. He was supposed to be a third baseman. He couldn't cut it defensively at third. They moved him to a corner outfield spot. And while he looks like he's going to be an okay player, and a lot of people think he's going to take the next step this season and become the hitter that everyone thought when he came out of Cuba last year, because they gave him some serious money and they thought this guy was going to be a good hitter. So we'll have to see if he steps it up, or they also have this Socrates Brito. I like to call him Socrates Burrito.
Yeah, I mean, where are these? Cuba? Is he from Cuba?
I'm not quite sure where
Did
he's
he
from.
defect?
He's still a young guy, man. He's a prospect, 23 years old. He did get some playing time in the bigs last year, just 33 at-bats. He hit 303 in those 33 at-bats, though. But he hit 300 in the minors as well in Double-A with a 339 on base. Had 17 doubles, 15 triples. So this guy's a triples machine. He also added 9 homers to that, had 20 stolen bases. And he only K'd 84 times in 490 at-bats, but he only walked 29 times as well. This guy has a ton of speed. He has a strong throwing arm. He plays good defense. So maybe this is the guy that starts over Yasmani Tomas in the outfield if he keeps showing this spring what he showed last season in the minors and in the big leagues. I kind of like this guy. But we'll have to see what they do in their outfield here. I'd have to believe Pollock and Peralta are set in here somehow, and then it's between Tomas and Brito at this point.
Wilmer Quesadilla, does he have a shot?
He's still in Double-A, man.
That was good.
Then you look at the infield here. Obviously, first base, you're set at Paul Goldschmidt, one of the best first basemen, if not the best first baseman in all baseball. I would tend to believe he is the best.
I'd say he's one of the best players in baseball.
Definitely. He plays good first base. He does everything great. He's an MVP candidate every year, really. So you have no problems there. Third base, Jake Lamb. He started the season so hot last year, and he showed it in the minors. This guy can hit, although that they have a little bit of questions about how much power he seriously has, and he does strike out a little bit too much, but he showed he's a very good hitter in the minors. And last year, to begin the season, he was on a tear. He went down with an injury, came back, and really didn't show what he showed before the injury. So we'll have to see if he can get back to what he showed at the beginning of 2015, or if he's really the player that we've seen after the injury. But Jake Lamb, I have I still believe this guy can be a good hitter, so I'm happy with what you got at third and first. And plus, you got Brandon Drury, a guy that plays great defense. This was a guy in the minor leagues they said that was never going to hit, and all he did was hit. Now, he doesn't have the greatest power in the world either, but he has a little bit of pop, and he hits for a high average. Like I said, great defense. So, worst come to worst, you could put Drury at third base if Liam doesn't work out. But I heard Drury can play some outfield as well, so maybe he's a guy that gets a lot of starts in the outfield this season. I heard they're going to try him in the outfield because he plays third base well. They moved him over to second. He plays second well. Now, he could be the starter at second base as well because they have Chris Owings at second base. And he was a pretty decent hitter in the minors. He's not going to give you a ton of speed or pop or anything, though. I think Drury's a better player, so I'd put him at second base. But if Owings beats him out, then you could put Drury at third if Lamb doesn't work out. Or if Lamb does work out and Owings works out, you can move Drury to the outfield and play him out there. If Socrates Burrito doesn't work out or he has Manny Tomas doesn't work out, Drury is a nice option here, and I really like this guy. And then at shortstop, like I said, they brought in Gene Segura to start, and I'm not that high on this guy. It's a cool name to have, I guess.
Oh, he's better than Clint Barmas.
Oh yeah, definitely better than
He's
Clint
like
Barmas.
a new
But
age.
Nick
He's
Ahmed
like a
was
new age Clint Barmas.
Well, I think he's better than Clint Barmas, to tell you the truth.
Oh, hey now.
Offensively, defensively,
okay.
Clint Barmas 10 times better, 100 times better.
Well, okay, so then that should even itself out a little bit because I mean, Clint wasn't garbage offensively. I mean, complete garbage.
No, he had his seasons in Colorado for sure, and
Right.
he was good a couple years ago as well after
Yeah.
he left Pittsburgh. So offensively, I think they could do better at second if Owings is their starter. But if they put Drury there, I'm good with what they have around the diamond. Really, I think Brito, Tomas, and Drury, you can find something there for your third outfielder that's going to work out this season. So around the diamond, I'm pretty happy. And like I mentioned, Wellington Castillo, a solid veteran as well at catcher. So your offense, I like what you got, and they showed it last season. They were one of the top offenses in the National League, and I think they're going to be even a little bit better this season now that Jake Liam has a little bit more experience because he's a young guy, and I think they're going to be a little bit better this season, and the rotation's definitely going to be better because we talked about it. They brought in Zach Greinke. They traded for Shelby Miller. They still got Patrick Corbin. Ruby De La Rosa is a guy that can throw some heat. Now, I thought he was going to be a little bit better than he has so far to this point. This was a guy that played for Boston at one point, and he really hasn't worked out, but he's a back end of the rotation type guy. They got Robbie Ray, a young guy that was in the Tiger system, and he's a pretty decent pitcher, back end of the rotation at worst. But they have a ton in the minors as well. You remember Archie Bradley, 47. This is a guy that has all the upside in the world. Can be an ace, but he can also just wash out of the league because he can't get his control down. He showed he had control in the minors, but in the bigs, man, he just way too many walks, and it just took his ERA way up. And this guy, I mean, he still has to take the next step and show he can do it in the bigs, but there is a chance he can be an ace still. Braden Shipley's another guy that's pretty close to the bigs, 23 years old. He had a 3.50 ERA in Double-A last year in 157 innings, allowed 147 hits compared to 56 walks, had 118 Ks. He's almost a bigger name than he's produced so far as well, though, because this guy had some high expectations. And while he's been okay, he's been a good pitcher, he really hasn't shown that. I wouldn't say he was supposed to be an ace, more of a low-end 1 or number 2. And I think he's maybe a 3 at this point. He has a low 90s fastball, but he does have some other pitches to go along with it, including a changeup, which is his second best pitch. But he's still very inconsistent as well, and Archie Bradley showed that doesn't work out very well. So we'll have to see about him as well. But if these guys work out, I mean, they have a ton of upside here.
You know, I seen a brief statement from manager Chip Hale saying that Zach Greinke will hit 8th in the lineup. Now, what do you think about having your pitchers hitting 8th in the lineup here in the National League? Does that make any sense to you? What's the big deal?
I mean, I wouldn't do it personally just because there's the chance. I mean, the higher you are in the order, the better chance you got at getting more at bats. So the last thing you want to do is get your pitcher more at bats than someone else in your lineup. So I never like to do it. But if you have a real fast guy that shouldn't be at the top of your lineup and putting him 9th, so if he does get on, then your number 1 hitter comes up, then you got some speed on the bases. You know what I mean? So there's 2 ways to look at it. But nah, I'm batting my pitcher ninth. But they have a bunch of starting pitching here in the minors. I'm not going to go through everyone's numbers or anything, but Tyler Wagner, he's 25. He had a 2.25 ERA in Double-A. Zach Godley's a guy that showed it in the bigs already. He pitched 37 major league innings last year. He had a 3.19 ERA, 34 Ks compared to 17 walks, and he pitched well between A advanced and Double-A too. Had a 2.71 ERA, and he has great control. So I think this is a guy that could find his way in the rotation at some point. They brought over that Cuban defector starting pitcher, Yohan Lopez, last season. He's only 23 still. Now, in Double-A, he had a 4.69 ERA, but they spent $8 million to sign this guy. He has a big-time fastball. He's still very raw, though, so he has some work to do in the minors still. But you may see him later this season. I don't know. But they got a lot of starting pitchers to fill out this rotation after Greinke, Miller, and Corbin. Of course, Corbin got to be healthy as well because he does not stay healthy very much. But the rotation looks good to me, and like I said, they got a lot of options here in the minors that they could call up at some point this season, whether early or late. And a couple offensive players I forgot to mention real quick was Jack Reinheimer. He's 23 years old. He can play in the infield. He doesn't have much power or anything, but in Double-A, he hit 270 with the 342 on base and 485 at bats last season. He can take walks. He doesn't strike out too much, so he looks like he could be a pretty decent player for him. Maybe not a starter at any point, maybe just a utility guy. And then everyone knows catcher, outfielder / first baseman Peter O'Brien. He's 25 years old. Huge power bat, strikes out way too much, way too much, doesn't walk enough. So we'll have to see where he ends up. He's not that great of a defender, but he has the huge power. But again, I don't think he's going to be playing the outfield this season. And they got Castillo at catcher. O'Brien isn't that great of a catcher. They got Goldschmidt at first. So O'Brien looks more like a backup at this point to me as well. Especially, I think his average is going to be low in the bigs. But that's it. I mean, the rotation looks good to me. Brad Ziegler, Tyler Clippard, Daniel Hudson, Josh Collmenter in the bullpen. They also got this Silvino Bracho. He's a prospect as well. He's 23 years old. But in 12.1 innings pitched in the bigs last year, he had 17 Ks compared to 4 walks. Now, he's only 5'10", so he's a smaller pitcher, but he has big-time upside, and this guy could push his way to the back end of the bullpen as well. So I kind of like what they have in the bullpen. There's no studs unless Bracho steps up and becomes a back end of the bullpen type guy. But, I mean, they have some solid pieces. Ziegler, Clippard, Hudson, like I was saying, Collmenter. These guys can get it done in the bullpen. So I like what they got pitching. I like what they got offensively. And I think this is going to be a good team this year. I think they improved from last year, and they were surprised last year. So they could go as high as second place in this division. I don't think they're going to win it, but I'm going to settle with third place in this division still.
Well, USA has them predicted at winning 86 games this year, which puts them 2 games out of the second wild card spot in the NL.
Yes.
So, that's tough. I mean, they must obviously, everyone sees Greinke there and thinks, okay, there's 12 wins right there, 12, 15 wins automatic. But it's more than just having one ace pitcher, obviously.
Right. But they do. They have the 1, 2, and 3. That's the nice thing about it. And I mean, there's a lot of questions on this offense still, but I see huge potential at least. Outside of Goldschmidt, there's no questions there. But everybody else, I mean, is Pollock going to be as good as he was last year? Is Brito going to step up and show what he showed so far at his young age? Is David Peralta going to have as good of a year as last year? Is Gene Segura going to bounce back ever? Who's even going to play second base? Are you going to give Drury the shot? Because I think this guy's a good hitter. Is Jake Lamb going to show what he showed at the beginning of last year? Ton of questions offensively, but playing in Arizona, you're going to score runs. It's all about this pitching staff, and Zach Greinke and Shelby Miller are huge additions to it, and I think it's really going to help. 86 wins, I'm going to say right on the dot, 86 wins.
I'll agree with you. I'll place them in third place in this division unless Greinke has another Cy Young career year, and then they might reach 90 wins. Because I believe, if you got a pitcher like that on your staff, those other pitchers, they see
feed
that
off of it.
feed, and that's the the truth in baseball, in my opinion. I mean, you just feed, even if you got guys in the lineup, Goldschmidt, Lamb starts to hit the ball.
I mean, it also takes pressure off of these other pitchers too.
And that too. So, I mean, I believe that this could be a sleeper team in the league. That's the Diamondbacks are my sleeper, but I'm still going to say they've finished third because I got to pick them somewhere. I'm not going to pick them first.
JK47.
I like what they have offensively. I like Pollock in center field, Goldschmidt, two of the most exciting players in the game. The rotation upgrades are huge. Plus, I mean, Corbin's not going to be bad in the middle of that rotation. I look for De La Rosa to progress. And Robbie Ray actually quietly had himself a solid season, too, despite his record.
Yeah, he's only 24 years old, too, so this is a young guy with his best days ahead of him still.
This is definitely a team on the rise right now. I think they're going to go over 86 wins. I'm going to say 88 for the season.
I know.
Second place.
All right.
Playoffs?
I think they're narrowly missing the playoffs.
Narrowly missing it. Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what. If Paul Goldschmidt would have stayed healthy, it could have helped things out, too. Didn't he get beamed?
Yeah.
Was that last year or the year before?
Yeah, it might have been the year before.
Year before.
Still.
It was against the Pirates, actually.
Yeah, broke his hand or whatever. So they beamed McCutcheon straight in the back.
Yeah. I forgot about that. You know what? No, Diamondbacks 5th place. You suck. Yeah. People from Arizona, you want to hate on what we just said about your baseball team, you can hit us up on Twitter at bet_the_spread. People from, what's that, Phoenix? Yeah, the TPC Scottsdale out there. Beautiful golf course. You want to talk to us about your baseball team, you can subscribe to that YouTube channel.
YouTube.com/betthespread.
And we're going to finish up our NL West talk shortly with the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Francisco Giants. You don't want to miss it. Until then, click subscribe. We out.